Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1217A, and today's date is March 1st, 2017, and the title of the episode is Stock Market Surge is an Illusion. The economic crisis date was planned 2 years ago. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we know out in Europe, the problems going back to 2008, well, they remain unresolved. Despite the ECB trying to pump in as much currency as possible, doing all the things they possibly can with negative interest rate, we still see European nations, well, they have really not recovered. Actually, the situation has gotten worse. I mean, Greece is arguably even worse shape today than it was when the term Grexit was first coined 6 years ago. And we can see right now that the Eurozone's biggest problem, its 19 member nations and the complete absence of fiscal transfer mechanisms, will continue to fester, even on the chance that Germany were to suddenly sanction a fiscal transfer scheme. It's probably already too late in proceedings for it to change the course of events. Mark Blyth, a professor of political economy in the U.S., who is one of very few academics who currently guess three of the biggest political shocks of 2017, the Brexit, Trumpism, and the no vote in Italy's constitutional referendum. He has warned now that in 2017, most likely we're going to see the euro cease to exist. And we can see right now with the Brexit, with the Frexit, with the Nexit, with the Italy leave, it looks like the euro right now most likely is doomed. We see Germany's inflation jumped up to 2.2%, and this surpassed the ECB's target, and this is the highest since 2012. And it just shot straight up. Now, we're seeing inflation hit the United States, Spain, Germany, and we're going to start seeing it hit throughout Europe. And what we're seeing right now is that as inflation moves up, it's going to be harder and harder for individuals to afford certain items. And this is going to add to the problems. Now, we talked about pensions before down in Texas, and we knew that other pension funds, they were going to run into problems, they were going to run out of money, and we are definitely seeing this right now. The New York Teamsters Road Carriers Local 707 Pension Fund, well, they won the award for running out of money. Now, many individuals who are former truck drivers, well, they had their pension benefits slashed, and they're quite angry. And the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corp, well, they were officially forced to step in and take over the payments for the retirees of the Local 707. Now, one of the individuals that worked as a truck driver, he said he had a union job for about 30 years. And we had collectively bargained contracts that promised us a pension. I paid into it with every paycheck. Everyone told us, don't worry. You have a union job, your pension is guaranteed. He said, well, so much for that. He said, it's a nightmare. He says it's completely devastated his lives because he was getting a pension of $48,000 a year, and now it's $24,000 a year. We see Central States Pension Fund, another one. Well, this is on the verge of a complete disaster that could leave 407,000 retirees without pensions across the Midwest and South. And it's not just the private sector industries that are suffering. Municipal and state plans are the next to go down. I mean, this is a complete disaster. In many states, those defined benefit plans are seriously underfunded. And at the end of the day, well, they're not going to have enough money. And we said this was going to happen when we saw it happening in Texas, when we saw it happening in Detroit, and we could see it spreading across the country. It's going to get a lot worse because what we're going to find out is that these pension funds, they don't have the money. And when the market goes down, it's going to be a complete disaster. We see real personal spending. Well, it crashed most since 2009. And we're seeing that the everyday cost of goods, those are moving up. people are spending less, and real personal spending, it plunged by 0.3%. This is the biggest drop, like I said, since 2009. That's when we were in the recession. Here we are in a recession. Now, Best Buy came out today, and they said that their sales at their stores fell by 0.7% in the fourth quarter, which is kind of strange because that is the holiday season. So Best Buy, H.H. Gregg, and all the other retail stores are doing absolutely terribly. The truth has come out. Retail is a disaster. And what they're looking at right now is they're saying that the situation is not going to get any time better. It's not going to get improve as we move throughout this year. It's actually going to get worse. And now, as we know, there's a retail apocalypse headed our way. And what we're seeing is that these retail chains are completely going under, some due to bankruptcy or restructuring, others due to the footprint rationalization. And we can see at this point that there are about 2,500 stores last year that closed down. 2,500. Now, there's a lot of commercial space that is completely vacant. And there are more stores that are on the chopping block that are going to be added to this number. And we know that H.H. Gregg is probably going to be closing stores. Best Buy most likely is going to start closing stores. And we can see at this point is that there is a huge problem. And this is building and building and building. And sooner or later, there's going to be a problem that we're not going to be able to deal with. Just like the subprime security. It started to build. Everyone pretended it didn't exist. Everyone pretended everything was fine until everything hit. We understand now why new construction is down. Because U.S. construction spending tumbled by 1% month on month. And this is a huge drop. Now, the biggest driver was a collapse in federal construction, which tumbled 7.4% month on month, with public residential building crashing over 15%. This is the most since 2010. So what are we looking at here? We're getting all these indicators right now that we are in this deep recession. We can pretend it's not happening. We can look at the stock market saying, wow, look at that, it's surging. But guess what? Nothing backs up the stock market. Sales doesn't. Earnings doesn't. It's a complete illusion to keep your eyes off of what's really going on here. Now, manufacturing is far from booming right now. We see real spending is declining. Core durable goods, well, they are declining. Shipments are declining. And what we see right now is that the market PMI manufacturing turned lower in February to 54.2, missing expectations. And chief economists are warning that manufacturing is not doing well. It's basically going back to where we were during the Great Recession. Again, we're seeing all these indicators letting us know we have a major problem. GDP for the first quarter of this year, 2017. Well, the Atlanta Fed just cut it to 1.8%. JP Morgan Chase, 1.5% they're saying. Bank of America saying, well, we think it's going to be around 1.3%. Now, they originally said it was going to be at 2.5%. And I know Trump is out there saying that GDP is going to hit 5% this year. Completely impossible. Obama was saying that for 2016, and we got GDP at 1.6% for the entire year. And that was the manipulated number. This economy is in really bad shape. A lot worse than Trump is even admitting. And actually, he admitted that the economy is a mess, but it's a lot worse than what we really know. And we know how bad it is because we've been looking at all the economic data. Now, Koos Jansen, he raised $3,144 or so to get the audit documentation from Fort Knox. He wanted the report showing that there was an audit of the gold and how much gold do we have in Fort Knox. And the U.S. Mint finally released a report drafted from 1993 through 2008. And this relates to the physical audits of the U.S. official gold reserves. Well, the documents released, they're completely incomplete and reveal the audit procedures have not been executed proficiently. So they refunded him the $3,144 of the Freedom of Information request because the entire audit was not complete. Now, the PDF package that was sent, well, included pages copied twice, things were redacted, and what is worrying is that the reports reveal the audit procedures have not been done right. Combine that with the fact that the documents are incomplete and redacted, the result is very suspicious. The U.S. Treasury, owner of the gold, Federal Reserve Bank of New York, which is the second custodian, and the Office Inspector General of the U.S. Treasury head auditor, well, they are reluctant to disclose information about the audits of the gold of the four largest depositories that store 8,000 metric tons of gold. Now, according to the U.S. government, 100% of the deep storage gold has been audited between 1974 and 2008. This was on page 4 of the documents that he received. This period can be divided into two chapters. The first runs from 1974 until 1986, when the Committee for Continuing Audit of the U.S. government-owned gold verified the majority of the deep storage metal. Now, the second chapter covers 1993 until 2008, when the residual was examined under the supervision of the Office of Inspector General of the U.S. Treasury. This is the part that's kind of missing. That's suspicious. And they decided to refund the money because they couldn't complete the paperwork, which is very odd, very suspicious, which tells you something that most likely the gold is no longer there, or maybe there's just a lot less. And this really doesn't look good because most of this gold actually belongs to other countries. Just like the Bundesbank wanted their gold back from the Federal Reserve. So this is going to be a huge problem because once the crisis hits, countries are going to ask for their gold back, and they're not going to get it. This is why we see countries out there asking for their gold back ahead of time. It seems like they know something that's going to happen. Now, we understand that the debt ceiling vote comes up March 15th, 2017. Now, this deal was struck by Obama and House Speaker John Boehner. This was done back in October of 2015. And they said, you know something, let's push this out to 2017 when Obama is no longer in office. And we'll let the debt level reach 20 trillion. Very interesting right off the bat. Because what we can see right now is that this was set up for the next administration, whoever it was going to be. It didn't matter if it was going to be Clinton, didn't matter if it was going to be Trump, because it was completely set up to self-destruct during the year of 2017, which we are in right now. Remember, they planned this 2 years ago because they knew that the whole thing was a complete scam. They knew they just can't continually add on more debt. It's just not going to work because as interest rates rise, we're going to have a problem paying it back. So right now, Trump, well, he is sitting here with this problem. And we can see that they're preparing to blame this time bomb on Trump. Now, if Clinton was in office, they had different plans. The plans were to make it look like Russia or North Korea or Iran, they were hitting the financial institutions. They were bringing down the economy. They were going to start a war right off the bat. And they were going to make it look like it was everyone else's fault. But Trump is now in office. So he's not following the plans right now. And it looks like what they're doing is they're switching everything and moving everything over to blame him. Now, the stock market is surging, keeps all eyes off of everything. Everyone believes that the economy is doing well. Now, remember, Trump has done nothing to the economy. Yes, during his speech, he said all these companies promised to spend money, but they haven't done it yet. No jobs have been brought back. Nothing has been done. So right now, this is still the Obama economy. As we move throughout this year, it will become the Trump economy because the news, the corporate media, the central bank, they will make it look like this is Trump's economy. They're setting him up because they're going to blame all of this on him when the economy comes down, especially with this debt ceiling problem. Now, most likely, the debt ceiling is going to be raised because if they don't, we're going to be in a huge world of problems. Now, maybe Trump is planning on not raising the debt ceiling, but you could see what he was saying yesterday about borrowing $1 trillion for the infrastructure. They're going to have to raise it. And remember, the U.S. economy is holding up the world for about 70% of the U.S. economic output is generated by domestic consumption. If the American consumer stops, Europe, Asia collapse. And this is where we are headed because the consumer, as we can see today, well, spending is declining, retail is declining. That means manufacturers don't have to manufacture. That means China is not going to produce as much. And we can see already this is having an effect around the world. And as time goes on, and as we move throughout this year, it's just going to get worse. It's not going to improve. It doesn't matter if he brings back 300,000 manufacturing jobs. First of all, we don't have the factories right now to support any of this. And by the time the corporations get around into investing into this, it's just not going to happen. The collapse is going to be here way before any of that is done. That's why I'm thinking all of this is being set up for after the collapse. And if you're thinking, well, I don't have to worry now, everything's going to be fine, right now, the economy is worse than ever. The situation is worse than ever. Don't be fooled by the stock market. Just because it's surging, it means nothing. It surged in 1929. It surged in 2001. It surged in 2008. It's meaningless. So get prepared. Don't be fooled. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.